Captain Lee Hanna gripped the metal railing of the bridge as the massive alien ships appeared in Earth's sky. Each vessel was 3 times larger than humanity's biggest space station, their surfaces made of some kind of living crystal that shifted and moved like breathing skin. She had been waiting for this moment for 3 long months. Ever since the first alien message had reached Earth, the communication had been simple. We hear you, young species. Submit your request for galactic citizenship. Humanity had celebrated. For weeks. Finally, they would join the great community of stars. Learn from ancient civilizations, and share their own knowledge with the universe. Now, standing on the bridge of Earth's finest ship, the UES Prometheus, Hannah realized how foolish they had all been. Captain Park Minho said from his station, his hands shaking as he worked the communication controls. The Galactic Confederation is sending us their official response. His voice cracked slightly. He was only 25, fresh from the academy, and had dreamed his whole life of meeting aliens. This was not the meeting he had imagined. The main screen lit up with harsh blue light. A creature appeared that made Hannah's eyes water just to look at it. It was made entirely of crystal, tall and sharp, with dozens of faces that reflected light in different directions. When it moved, the light patterns hurt to watch. When it spoke, the words came through their translation computer in a voice that sounded like breaking glass. Species designation, human. Planet designation, Earth. Classification level, juvenile species. Stage 2 development. The creature's voice had no emotion, like a computer reading a grocery list. You will submit to subjugation, Protocol 7, immediately. Your species development will be supervised and controlled for a minimum period of 800 standard galactic cycles. Any resistance to this protocol will result in immediate orbital correction procedures. Hannah felt her stomach drop. 800 cycles was nearly 1,000 Earth years. Her great-great-grandchildren would still be living under alien control. What do you mean by orbital correction? The crystal being tilted its head, light dancing across its surface. Demonstration will be provided. A new ship moved into position above Earth's surface. It was smaller than the others, sleek and deadly. Looking, a beam of pure energy shot down from its belly, brighter than the sun. On Earth's surface, the abandoned city of Detroit simply disappeared. Where once stood buildings and roads, now there was only a massive crater of melted rock and twisted metal. The heat was so intense that the glass at the bottom of the crater glowed red even from space. "Holy Mother of God," whispered Kim Day, the tactical officer. His face had gone completely white as he watched the mushroom cloud rise from what had been a city just seconds before. The alien continued speaking as if nothing had happened. Detroit was selected for demonstration as it contained no current human population. Future corrections will not be so considerate. You have 6 of your hours to signal complete surrender. Any military movement, any attempt at resistance, will result in similar corrections to populated areas. The screen went black. For long moments, nobody on the bridge spoke. The only sounds were the quiet hum of the ship's engines and the soft beeping of various instruments. Hannah could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. "Captain," Park Minho said quietly, "we're receiving messages from Earth. Every major government wants to know what just happened. The President is asking for recommendations." "Tell them we need time to think," Hannah said, though she already knew there was nothing to think about. "Surrender or watch human cities turn to glass, one by one." Kim Day stood up from his station, his fists clenched. "Captain, they don't see us as equals. We're not even animals to them. We're insects. Bugs that might become a problem if we're not stepped on early. I know. They've probably done this 1,000 times before. How many species across the galaxy live under their boot? How many civilizations have they crushed because those species weren't developed enough?" Hannah nodded slowly. She walked to the large window at the front of the bridge and looked out at the alien ships. They hung in space like silent judges, waiting for humanity to bow down and accept their chains. Below them, Earth continued to spin, blue and beautiful and free. For now, Captain, Park Minho said, the governments are asking what we should tell the people. Hannah was quiet for a long time, watching the alien ships. Finally, she turned back to her crew. Tell them we're going to surrender. Tell them we have no choice. And after that? Kim Dae asked. Hannah looked at her officers, these young men who had joined the space service to explore the stars, not to watch their world be conquered. After that, we start planning. They think they're dealing with insects. She smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Then perhaps it's time insects learned to bite back. 5 years had passed since the crystal ships first appeared in Earth's sky. 5 years since humanity had bent the knee and accepted their place as children in the galactic order. But deep beneath the streets of Seoul, in the abandoned subway, tunnels that the aliens had never bothered to explore, Choi Jun was proving that humanity had learned more than just how to obey. The plasma torch in his hand cast dancing shadows on the tunnel walls as he carefully welded another piece of alien metal to the ship's hull. The metal had been salvaged from a crashed alien scout ship in the mountains of Tibet. Getting it here had cost 3 good people their lives, but it was worth it. This metal could bend space itself, make a ship invisible to the sensors that watched Earth's surface day and night. June, the power readings are looking good, called Yang Su from the other side of their secret workshop. She was crouched next to a fusion reactor that hummed quietly in the darkness. The aliens had laughed at human fusion technology, calling it primitive and weak. They were about to learn that primitive could still kill. Around them, dozens of other workers moved like ghosts in the dim light. Most of them had lost family in the early days after the surrender. The aliens had been efficient in their punishment of anyone who spoke against them. Cities had burned. People had disappeared. The message was clear: obey or die. But humans were stubborn creatures. How many more days until the core is ready? June asked, running his hand along the smooth hull of their ship. It was beautiful in its own way, built for speed and stealth, rather than the massive displays of power that the aliens preferred. Where their ships were all crystal spires and glowing lights, this vessel was dark metal and hidden engines. 2 days, maybe 3, Yang Su replied. The power coupling keeps overheating when we push it past 60%, but I think I know how to fix it. The sound of footsteps echoed through the tunnel, and everyone froze. But it was only Li Min returning from her patrol of the upper tunnels. She was their cell leader, a former military engineer who had been working on spaceship design when the aliens arrived. Now she spent her days coordinating with other underground groups across the world. The Crystal Patrol passed overhead right on schedule, she reported, pulling off her worn jacket. Same route they've been taking for 3 months. They fly over the city center, check the government buildings, then return to their ship. They don't even look at the old subway entrances. June smiled. They think they've broken us completely. Maybe they have broken most people, Yang Su said sadly. I went to the surface yesterday to get supplies. The people there, they've given up. They do their jobs, follow the rules, keep their heads down. They've accepted that this is how things are now. Li Min shook her head. That's exactly what the aliens want them to think. But down here, in places like this all over the world, people are still fighting, still building, still planning. She walked over to look at their ship, running her fingers along the dark metal. How many ships will be ready by the end of the month? 50, if everything goes according to plan, June answered. Maybe 60, if the Bangkok group finishes their work early. Yang Su laughed, but it was not a happy sound. 50 ships against an entire galactic empire. June, they have thousands of ships, maybe tens of thousands. We're like ants trying to fight an elephant. Ants that the elephant can't see coming, Li Min corrected. The aliens have been fighting the same kind of war for thousands of years. Big ships, straight battles, formal challenges. They've never faced guerrilla warfare. They've never fought an enemy that strikes from the shadows and disappears. June nodded. Every species they've conquered before probably fought them the same way they fight each other. Honor duels, fleet battles, traditional warfare, but humans, ... He gestured at the workshop around them, at the improvised tools and scavenged materials. Humans fight dirty when they have to. The galaxy has never seen humans at war, Li Min continued. They think they know us because they've watched us for 5 years. They see us following their rules, working in their factories, living quiet. Lives. They think we're broken. Yang Su was quiet for a moment, then smiled. But we're not broken. We're just waiting. Exactly, June said. They're about to learn what happens when you corner a species that spent its entire history fighting itself. We know every dirty trick, every cruel strategy, every desperate tactic that evolution could teach us. Li Min picked up one of the alien weapons they had modified, feeling its weight in her hands. In 1 month, 50 ships will launch from hidden bases all over Earth. They won't be expecting us. They won't know how to fight us. And for the first time in 5 years, they're going to learn that humans don't stay down when you knock them over. In the darkness of the tunnels, lit only by the glow of plasma torches and fusion reactors, humanity was preparing to remind the galaxy why they had survived everything their own planet could throw at them. The aliens thought they had conquered Earth. They were about to discover they had only made it angry. Admiral Songhai floated in the pilot seat of her ship, watching Europa grow larger through the dark viewport. The ice-covered moon of Jupiter looked peaceful from space, but she knew that beneath its frozen surface lay one of the alien confederation's most important supply stations. For 6 years, Outpost 7 had been processing materials stolen from conquered worlds, turning them into weapons and ships for the Galactic Empire today. That was going to end. All ships, keep the radios off, she whispered into her helmet microphone. Her voice was so quiet that even her own crew could barely hear her. Around her ship, 49 other vessels moved through space like hunting wolves, their black holes, designed to swallow light instead of reflecting it. The aliens had sensors that could spot a fleet from halfway across the solar system, but they had never been designed to find ships that didn't want to be found. Songhai had been a cargo pilot before the invasion, flying supplies between Earth and the outer colonies. She had never thought she would become a military commander, but when the crystal ships arrived and started giving orders, when they began treating humans like pets that needed training, something inside her had hardened into steel. Through her side window, she could see Commander Bay-1's ship, keeping perfect formation beside her. They couldn't use radio to communicate, so Bay-1 was flashing coded messages with a small light on his ship's hull. 3 short flashes, 2 long ones, 1 short. The message was simple. Target confirmed. Defenses active but following routine patterns. Songhai smiled grimly. That was the problem with the aliens. They had been the rulers of the galaxy for so long that they had forgotten what it meant to be afraid. Their security systems followed the same patterns day after day, month after month. They scanned for threats that looked like other alien ships, using tactics that other alien species might use. They had never considered that someone might attack them using methods they had never seen before. "Admiral," came a whisper from Pilot Officer Han Sol, who was leading the bomber wing. "We're in position. The depot's shields are down for their daily maintenance cycle, just like our spies said they would be." Songhai looked at the alien station. Below them, it was massive, built into Europa's ice, like a metal cancer. Lights moved along its surface as automated systems went about their work. Somewhere inside, alien workers were processing stolen resources, building weapons that would be used to keep other species under control. The station was so confident in its safety that it barely had any guards. Strike package ready, Han Sol reported, missiles loaded with human targeting systems. This was the key to their plan. The missiles themselves were built using alien technology that humanity had stolen and reverse-engineered, but the guidance systems were purely human, using chaos mathematics and random pattern generators that the aliens had never encountered, where alien weapons followed predictable paths that could be calculated and intercepted. Human missiles moved like living things, changing course at random, making decisions that no computer could predict. Launch when ready, Songhai ordered. She watched through her scope as the missiles streaked away from Han Sol's ships, their exhausts barely visible against the black of space. They moved in patterns that hurt to watch, twisting and turning for no apparent reason, sometimes flying directly away from their target before suddenly changing direction. The aliens' automated defense systems tried to track them and failed. The targeting computers, programmed by species that had fought wars the same way for thousands of years, simply couldn't understand what they were seeing. The first missile hit the station's primary power generator. The explosion lit up Europa's night side like a small sun, and Songhai had to shield her eyes from the glare. The second and third missiles followed seconds later, tearing into the station's communication arrays and weapon systems. Direct hits, reported Han Sol, his voice full of excitement and disbelief. The entire station is going dark. By the time the aliens at Outpost 7 managed to send out a distress call, Songhai's fleet was already accelerating away from Europa, their ships disappearing into the black between Jupiter's moons. The alien patrol fleet that arrived 3 hours later found only wreckage and a message that was being broadcast on every communication frequency in the local system. "This is humanity," the message said in a dozen alien languages. "We do not kneel. We do not accept chains. We do not surrender our freedom to anyone, no matter how old or powerful they think they are." The message spread through the galactic communication network like wildfire. On 1,000 worlds, in 1,000,000 slave camps and conquered cities, beings that had forgotten what hope felt like suddenly remembered. If the humans could strike back, if the humans could make the mighty Confederation bleed, then maybe freedom was still possible. Songhai didn't know it yet, but her 50 ships had just lit a fuse that would burn across the entire galaxy. The age of the Confederation's unchallenged rule was ending. And it was ending because humanity had reminded everyone what it meant to fight back. Dr. Rowe Jun pulled his breathing mask tighter as he descended into the sulfur-stained mining pits of Kepler 442b. The air burned his lungs, even through the filters, and the yellow dust coated everything in sight. This was one of the Confederation's most productive mining worlds, where beings called the Vrex had been digging precious metals from poisonous ground for over 300 years. The Vrex looked like giant insects, with 6 arms and hard shells that protected them from the toxic environment. They had once built beautiful cities that floated in the sky, powered by technology that even the Confederation respected. But that was before the crystal ships arrived and declared that the Vrex were inefficient and needed proper guidance. Now they lived in underground holes and spent their days digging in mines that slowly poisoned them. Jun had come here secretly, traveling in a stolen alien transport ship. The human resistance needed allies, and the Vrex had been slaves long enough to hate their masters. But first, he had to convince them that fighting back was possible. About 50 Vrex workers had gathered in a large cave deep underground, where the Confederation's listening devices couldn't reach them. They sat in a circle, their 6 arms folded, their large eyes reflecting the dim light from Chen's portable lamps. The largest among them, who the others called First Digger, had scars all over his shell from decades of hard labor. "Human friend speaks brave words." First Digger clicked in his native language. Chun's translator converted the clicking sounds into words he could understand. But Vrex have heard brave words before. 300 years of brave words. Still we dig. Still. We die in the poison dust. Jun nodded. He understood their doubt. I know you've been betrayed before. I know you've lost hope, but let me show you something. He activated his portable holoprojector, and images filled the cave. First came footage of Detroit being destroyed by alien weapons 6 years ago, the mushroom cloud rising over the ruined city. The Vrex watched silently, their large eyes unblinking. This is what the Confederation did to my people when we first met them, Jun explained. They told us we were children who needed to be controlled. They showed us their power and expected us to surrender. The next image showed the wreckage of Outpost 7 floating in space around Europa. Twisted metal and broken crystals scattered across the void. This is what we did to them last month, Jun said quietly. The cave erupted in excited clicking as the Vrex workers talked among themselves. First Digger leaned forward, his scarred mandibles spreading wide. Humans destroyed Confederation Station. 50 human ships built in secret tunnels, using technology we stole and modified, Jun confirmed. The Confederation thought they had broken us completely. They were wrong. A younger Vrex worker, her shell still bright compared to the others, raised 2 of her 6 arms. But humans are young species. Only 6 years under Confederation control. Vrex have been slaves for 3 centuries. How can we fight when our Queen Mother's songs are forgotten, when our sky cities are dust? Jun smiled and adjusted his translator. Your Queen Mother's songs spoke of crystal palaces and cities that floated in the clouds, didn't they? The Confederation calls those stories mythology, fairy tales for children. Several Vrex nodded sadly. I call them stolen dreams, Jun said. Firmly, dreams that can be reclaimed by those brave enough to reach for them. He changed the holoprojector to show star maps, with red dots marking human resistance cells across the galaxy. We're not just fighting on Earth anymore. Human agents are making contact with enslaved species on 100 worlds. On Aquatica, we're teaching the Hydrons how to build submarines that can hide in their deepest oceans. On Melodia Prime, we're helping restore the singing traditions that the Confederation banned. First Digger stood up slowly, his ancient joints creaking. What does humanity want from Nothing, Jen replied, and the cave fell silent. We don't want to rule you. We don't want to replace the Confederation with a human empire. We want to destroy the very idea that one species can own another. He stood up and faced the gathered workers. Humanity learned something in our short time as slaves. Dignity is not something that masters give to their servants. It's something that free beings take for themselves. The young Vrex worker clicked excitedly. But how? Confederation has ships, weapons, armies. Vrex have only mining tools and poisoned lungs. The Confederation has ruled for thousands of years using the same methods, Jun explained. They expect their enemies to fight fair, to follow rules, to be predictable. But humans fight dirty. We hit where they don't expect it. We use weapons they don't understand. We break their rules because we never agreed to follow them in the first place. First Digger was quiet for a long time, staring at the images of destroyed alien installations. Finally, he spoke. If Rex join human resistance, many will die. Yes, Jun admitted, but if you stay slaves, you'll all die anyway, just more slowly. The old Rex worker touched his scarred shell with one claw. Better to die fighting for sky cities than live digging in poison dust. Around the cave, other Rex began clicking their agreement. General Lee Hanna stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the greatest fleet ever assembled move toward Nexus Prime. 6 years ago, she had been Captain Hanna, helplessly watching alien ships destroy Detroit, while humanity bent the knee. Now she commanded over 3,000 ships from dozens of species, all united by a single dream, freedom, through the viewport. She could see the mixed fleet spread across space like a swarm of angry insects. Human ships built in Earth's tunnels flew alongside Vrex mining vessels converted into warships. Hydrant submarines that had been modified for space travel moved next to the flower-like ships of the Melodian Singers. Each vessel was different, improvised, desperate, but together, they represented something the galaxy had never seen before. General, called Commander Park Minho from his station. He had been with her since the beginning, a young communications officer who had become one of humanity's finest military leaders. The Confederation Defense Fleet is moving into position. 200 ships, all Crystal class, following standard formation patterns. Hannah nodded. The aliens were doing exactly what she expected. They were ancient, powerful, and completely set in their ways. They had been fighting wars the same way for 10,000 years, using the same tactics, the same formations, the same predictable strategies. Open communications to all ships, she ordered. Channel open, General. Hannah took a deep breath. Across the fleet, beings from dozens of species were listening to her words, translating them into clicking sounds, singing harmonies, underwater vibrations, and languages that humans had never heard before. All ships, this is General Hannah. Today we fight not for revenge, but for something greater. We're not here to replace the Confederation with another empire. We're here to make sure that no one can ever again decide the fate of another species. On her tactical display, she watched as the Confederation fleet moved into their traditional battle formation. Perfect lines, precise spacing, each ship knowing exactly where it belonged. It was beautiful in its own way, like a deadly dance that had been performed countless times before. Enemy fleet, opening fire, reported Kim Day from the weapons station. Streams of crystal energy lanced across space toward the Liberation fleet. But instead of meeting them head-on, in a traditional battle line, Hannah's ship scattered in all directions like a school of fish avoiding a predator. Vrek's ships dove toward the planet's surface, using their mining experience to navigate through the orbital debris. Hydran vessels rolled and twisted in patterns that mimicked their underwater hunting techniques. Human ships simply disappeared, their stealth systems making them invisible to alien sensors. The Confederation fleet fired at empty space, while their enemies struck from unexpected angles. Strike Team Alpha moved toward the communication center, Hannah ordered as explosions bloomed around the alien formation. Remember, we're not there to destroy it. We need it intact. She led a small group of the fastest ships toward Nexus Prime's orbital communication array, the massive structure that connected every world in the galaxy. Behind her, the main battle continued to rage as the Liberation fleet used every dirty trick that evolution had taught their species. The space around the communication center was heavily defended, but the defenders were expecting a frontal assault from a traditional fleet. They weren't prepared for Hannah's strike team, which approached from 6 different directions at once, using the planet's gravity well to slingshot around its moons. Boarding pods away, she announced as her ship closed with the communication station. Around her, dozens of other small craft were doing the same thing, carrying soldiers from a dozen species into the heart of the Confederation's power. The fighting inside the station was brief, but fierce. The alien guards were skilled and well-equipped, but they had never faced enemies that fought with such desperate creativity. Human soldiers used zero-gravity combat techniques, while Vrek's workers applied their tunnel-fighting experience to the station's corridors. Hydran warriors moved through the station's water recycling systems like deadly spirits. Within an hour, the communication center was in Liberation hands. General, we have control of the primary broadcast array, reported Captain O'Ben, who had led the assault team. All channels are open and ready. Hannah moved to the central control room, where the most powerful communication system in the galaxy waited for her command. Through the station's windows, she could see the battle still raging outside, but she knew it was almost over. The Confederation fleet was breaking apart, their perfect formations shattered by enemies they couldn't understand or predict. This is General Lee Hannah of the Liberation Fleet. She spoke into the microphone that would carry her words to every inhabited world in the galaxy. Today, we declare a new charter for all species, that no being has the right to determine another's destiny, that progress comes through cooperation instead of domination, and that this galaxy belongs to everyone who lives in it, on 1,000 worlds, in 1,000,000 slave camps and conquered cities. Beings looked up at the sky and heard those words. The old empire wasn't dying in a single battle. It was crumbling under the weight of an idea whose time had finally come. Freedom, humanity had learned, was not something given by the powerful. It was something taken by the brave. And now, written in steel and starlight, that freedom belonged to everyone willing to fight for it.